All right. I'm Nadia Brunner-Velasquez Roemer, and my pronouns are she, her. My business name is NBVR Pilates. So those are the initials of my first name, my two maiden last names, and my new last name through marriage and through love.
Oh,
And
nice.
it's a little complicated. You know,
Yeah,
people get the initials a little
mixed
mixed
up
up.
there. Yeah.
I would too if I if I didn't really know me. Um, and here and there, I think of changing the business name, but I think for right now, it feels like the name represents where I am in my business journey, my career, and in my
Yes.
personal life.
Hmm.
And I kind of like I like it for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I always struggle with, whether I put my name into my business or not from the standpoint of how big do I want it to grow? How do I scale it out if it's just my name? People are going to keep coming just because of me as opposed to coming because of a philosophy of my business or what I mean, the experience that they get, right? So
Right.
it's just an interesting discussion.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
philosophy or the experience, does it want to be, one word or two words, something that really grabs their attention,
Mhm.
tells them what they'll get out of an experience with you.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you been brainstorming some names that we can talk through?
Yeah, that would be fun.
Okay, let's do it.
Something that's been going through my mind over and over the last year is Flow Pilates, but it's taken.
Mhm. We could change
And
the spelling, like
yeah, we could change,
PH or something.
right? I like that. Or maybe just FLO instead of FLOW.
Yeah.
Um, because it brings me to the guiding principles of Pilates and how flow is one of them. And I've
Yes.
always felt like that resonates with me personally the
Mhm.
most. And then this one's funny. My husband recommended I do Nadi's Pilates because
Nadi's Pilates.
my friends and family call me Nadi.
Mhm.
So I ixnayed that one. I said no, but then I thought about it a little bit more.
There, it could have a market.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's catchy.
it's catchy.
We'll see. Yeah.
I'm writing those two down. Well, it's funny, with that Nadi's Pilates, I had Brenda Freeman on, who was
Yeah.
a somatic sex educator who also teaches Pilates.
Yeah.
And we did an after dark edition of Core Conversations. And it was like a 2 hour Friday night talk where we got into talking about pelvic health and sexual health and women and men. And there's this really interesting, not very often had conversation about Pilates and sex.
Right. That was the first core conversation of yours that I ever listened to.
No way.
It was.
Yeah.
And my husband Kyle and I, we were both in the kitchen
Mhm.
listening to it while we were making lunch.
Mhm.
I remember, and we took it outside with us. We did a little outside workout, and I had it on the our Mega Boom. We were
Yeah.
listening to it, and it was
Nice.
we were both so into it, and we thought it was so neat to see also a man and a woman talking about these things,
Yes.
and both of you being from your two very different backgrounds, and then the blend of Pilates and pelvic health and sexual health, and just how that it's so related.
Hmm.
And it just made sense that that's what her career was, the blend of the two,
Yes.
right? Just
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. It is really interesting too because it's like it, we really don't talk about it very much. So I wanted to bring it into the conversation because we're quick to talk about any other area of corrective exercise or performance or all those different things. And that just stays so taboo, much like everyday life. It does stay very taboo. And then people struggle in silence about it. So when we can, when we actually have some answers for it with our exercise prescription and movement, whether you're, classically trained or contemporarily trained, so to speak, there's so much exercise, there's so much power in our exercises in these integrated movements that can help, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I thought it was just an interesting conversation as well. And I messaged Brenda afterwards because I'll be training people now and I can tell certain things just by the way their body moves, what we need to focus on next. Because it was
Wow.
that interesting of a conversation and she's really,
Wow.
really technical with it. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So Naughty
Right.
Pilates, there you go. That might be your market.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for that insight.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's a long way around that.
It,
Um,
yeah.
but it's funny, actually, another thing too was the conversation we had yesterday during our freestyle was about flow.
Okay. I didn't catch it yesterday, so fill
Okay.
me in. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Because there's different people watching today as well. So
Yeah.
Sonia was challenging us to think about that notion of flow because that wasn't necessarily
Mm-hmm.
Joseph Pilates' principle. That was something that
Mm-hmm.
was layered in afterwards, supposedly.
Right.
I really don't know. And that's not to say it's bad, but when we're trying to teach people,
Yeah.
it's good to have understanding principles of how this works.
Yeah.
But we attribute everything back to Joseph Pilates when it may or may not have been him that said it, right?
Right.
Right. So that was one piece of it. And then
Mm-hmm.
the other piece of it was like for myself as an athlete or for your husband who may be this like big strong mover as opposed to like this flowy
Mm-hmm.
dance type person, we think that flow means doing everything hard and fast and quick, whereas that flow can be slow and controlled, or
Yeah.
vice versa, right? Like we have
Yeah.
in our head what we think
Yeah.
flow means, and it just means that,
Right. Right.
right?
It can mean something to something different to everybody.
Right, right.
And
Yeah.
I never thought about that because
Mhm.
I just thought about what it meant to me.
Yeah.
But I never thought about what it would mean to someone who comes from a sports background, for example.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Okay. So,
Really cool.
what's your definition of flow in this context of Pilates? What does flow mean to you?
Okay, so tying in kind of our chat before we hopped on to the our core conversation, flow for me personally means flowing with what you have.
Hmm.
And right now I'm in the depths of new motherhood.
Okay.
And what rings in my head every day now, my yoga teacher shared this with me. Her name's Cynthia Denise. And she said, your kids do not ruin the flow, they are part of your flow.
Hmm.
And so that's helped me tremendously in running my business, in managing my moods, managing my energy, um, running the home life, managing outside relationships. Those words really resonated with me, and
Yes.
in a way, it was very insightful. Something I had felt always, but I needed someone to tell it to me.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, yeah, you said there's so many different dynamics that you just mentioned, and how do we not get uptight? Because I know that I'm guilty of that too. I get so uptight if something interrupts
yeah, yeah.
the flow of how I think things are supposed to go, right? Instead of
Right,
allowing that to come with me
right,
through this process or allow it to guide me as well.
right. A little bit about that rigidity too. Like it's almost like the more we allow ourselves to be rigid,
Hmm.
the more intense it becomes. And then if we're talking about kids, for example, I don't have much experience with older kids yet, like you, but with the younger kids, they're so perceptive and they feel
Hmm.
our rigidity, and they
Yes.
feel when we are frustrated with things not going the right way,
Yes.
and they they react on that, right? They could lash out or throw tantrum. There's very in sync with us, and I
Hmm.
never believed that before. Like maybe in my first 1 or 2 years of parenthood, I was like, I don't believe that they can sense what we're feeling. But now I'm like, 4.5 years into it, and oh yeah, they know, they
Yes.
feel it.
Yes.
And so if we can practice, it's a practice. right? We can't be perfect all the time. And I remind myself every day,
Yes.
it's a practice. Your kids are part of your flow. He's not ruining my flow. It's okay. Yes, you can play in the reformer and mess up all the straps as long as I can just type this thing over here.
Yes.
Okay,
Right.
fine. Yeah,
Yes. That's it, right? Like, and we
it's a
have to
trip.
just, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
parenthood. Oh.
So your kids are 4 and under 1?
Yeah, 4 and 3 and 8 months. So 3 kids.
You're right in it.
Yeah, and they're all
Right.
in diapers. So we have a lot of diapers to change.
Yes.
And my husband and I, we don't really mind it, and we're not pushing them to potty train yet, but they're dabbling in it here and there. So
Mhm. Yep.
yeah,
And
we're
running a
gonna.
Pilates gig at the same time.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
from home, which
Hmm.
is so nice. I moved in with my husband and his family here to Martinez when I was pregnant the first time.
Hmm.
So we live in his family home. They've been here for about 19 years.
Okay.
And we lived with his parents and his siblings in this home. And they recently just moved next door to, we call it the Little House. It's
Okay.
just down the pathway. And yeah, so part of the room or part of the house, it's a very long ranch style house. There's a room right off of the kitchen, and that is my Pilates studio.
Amazing.
And then pre-COVID, I had clients come in, and that's where I taught them.
Mhm.
And now with the pandemic, what I do is I teach family members inside, people who are in our bubble, like my little sister-in-law and my husband.
Mhm.
And then I teach all my clients outdoors. We've got a back deck right next to the studio.
Okay.
And so that's where I teach outdoors. And then, of course, on Zoom
Yes.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are some good pivots.
Yeah. Okay.
And I always ask too, like, was that part of your plan to eventually do more like online and like scale it out that way, or were you always hoping to just have more like in-person work as your business grew?
Good question. I was hoping to do all in person.
Mhm.
Online was very intimidating to me, and I always brushed it off. I said, that's not for me. I don't want to teach online. I want to be in person. I want to get my hands on people.
Yes, yes.
Um, I want to see people face to face. And then, with COVID, we all had to pivot and shift.
Yes.
And it was a transition.
Mhm.
It was a transition getting everybody on board. Not all of my clients wanted to work online, and I haven't
Right.
seen them since before COVID and before my maternity leave. Um, and I hope things can change soon, and maybe they'll want to come outdoors sometime soon, although it's getting cold. Especially some of my
Like
older
California
clients.
cold.
Yeah, California cold.
Right. Yeah, just
Yeah, like
qualify that because
60.
we had like snow this week.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
you guys are really cold.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, we don't really know what cold is.
Right. Back to the story. Sorry.
Back to
Yes.
the story. Um, and I don't know if this was part of your question too, but I I never imagined having a private home studio.
Mhm.
That just it worked out this way because we had so my husband, his name's Kyle, his brother Paul. I remember he was in the fire academy when I was pregnant, or sometime around there the first time, and he was living in what is now the Pilates studio in that side room.
Okay.
And we had a lot of us family members living in this house, and then slowly people started moving out. His brothers got married, and I don't remember whose idea it was, maybe my mom-in-law's or maybe Kyle's. I said, do you want to have a Pilates studio in here so that you don't have to commute? Because I was working for other people. My mentor, Carol LeMay, I was working for her in San Francisco.
Okay.
She owns Sanchez Street Studios. And then I was working in Oakland and Walnut Creek. And it was just a lot of driving and I
Hmm.
was really pregnant, and I said, sure. So then I was also very inspired by a teacher, and now she's a friend. Her name's Lisa Mitchell.
Okay.
And my mom in law was training with her for about 20 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And she said, now, Nadia, that you moved here, I want you to meet Lisa Mitchell, my Pilates teacher. And she runs her own home studio. She's very brick and mortar. She doesn't have a website, but she
Hmm.
has this like booming practice, and she had a really beautiful studio. So I went to meet with her and checked it out. I was like, oh, so this is what a home studio is like. And I kind of observed how she ran her one woman show, and it was very appealing. And she also, I worked at her studio for a few months, just to kind of sub in. She needed some
Yes.
help at the time.
Hmm.
And she kind of guided me on how to open up my own home studio.
That's amazing.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of my journey into the home studio.
Well, I think not enough is said about that mentoring component that you got there, whether it was formally or informally, where she said, sit down, this is how we do it, or you just kind of caught it along the way. But
Right.
like, there needs to be more of that.
Yeah, there needs to be more of that. And, you know, um, that reminds me of a conversation I had with my yoga teacher, Cynthia, who I talked about earlier, and just how much a wealth of information our elders have,
Hmm.
and how we can, you know, recognize that and know that we're not alone,
Yes.
and that we should go to them for help,
Right.
and not pretend like we know it all or can do it all.
Hmm.
We have these wonderful people who have been in the industry for decades, or they've maybe they're not in our exact health and wellness or Pilates industry, but
Right.
maybe they know how to run their own business,
That's a good point. Yeah.
and tapping into that, utilizing them as resources, because they've been through so much, right?
Hmm.
And that's been really key for me, talking
So,
to the people in my
but
life. Yeah,
why don't we do that?
good question.
Yeah. Like,
Maybe ego gets in the way.
sometimes, like, we think we can just figure it out. Like,
Yeah, I know. Um, for me, sometimes when I'm feeling resistant to reach out to someone for help, it's because I don't want to seem like I'm
inconveniencing
as young
them.
as I am, or I want to seem like I'm a little bit more professional. I think it's ties into that imposter syndrome a little bit.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
really good question.
Well, like yeah, because I think about that too, and I like what you said, not necessarily someone in the Pilates space too, right? Because there's people who
Right.
are in marketing or real estate or tech or something, but they still have that brick and mortar or that specific niche that we can learn from. So asking those questions is key.
Yeah.
And when I spoke at Brink, I was talking about the different mentors that we
Mm-hmm.
have in our world, right? So there's people that we look up to that, like you said, this person who had their booming brick and mortar business, and they're not online, but you can look up to them for what you want to do.
Yeah.
And then the second person was that person that we lock arms with, so someone
Yeah.
who's in a similar stage as us. So like marimba for you, right? So you're both doing Pilates, you have kids of a similar age, your parents, you're navigating parenthood or motherhood and entrepreneurship at the same time. So
Yeah.
there's your lock arms person. And
Yeah.
then the third person is a person that you are helping up. So someone will watch this and be like, oh, I have a newborn and I just started my bricks and mortar. Like, what did she learn? Let
Mm-hmm.
me reach out to Nadia and learn. And
Mm-hmm.
if we're too caught up in our imposter syndrome of feeling like we're not smart enough, worthy enough, good enough yet, whatever,
Yeah.
we don't recognize the fact that we actually have something to give
Right.
at the same
Right.
time, right? So
Right. I like that. The mentor, the locking arms, and the mentee.
yeah,
Yeah.
essentially. So I said it like there's a person that we look up to, right? So that's someone that we're looking
Yeah.
up to, like we want to be like them. There's
Mm-hmm.
someone that we're locking arms with, someone who's at a similar stage of life as us, and
Mm-hmm.
there's someone that we're helping up, someone who's looking up to us, and we're saying, here, this is the way to get up here.
Yeah. I like
Yeah,
that. Thanks for sharing that.
yeah, that's
I'm going to think about that.
yeah. I think I have the replay for it. I want to repost it because it's been said in so many different ways, and I found that that was a good way to capture what we're doing because there's so many of us that are at a very similar life stage,
Right. Right.
right? And they're going
Yeah.
through this, and that life stage can be like, you know, you just open a studio and then you just have to close your studio down. So what do you do now,
Right. What do you do
right?
now? Oh,
Yeah.
someone's been through this.
Hmm.
Hey, tell me.
Yep.
Help me.
Right.
Yeah.
Help me.
Help me
Exactly.
now.
Hmm.
I really like that, Martin. And I I'm so happy and honored that you asked me to be on your platform because I've been thinking about it all week. And, you know, I would love for anyone who's watching or listening who's going through the same thing. So, early parenthood, or maybe just parenthood in general, and building their business, reach out. Maybe we can lock arms,
Hmm.
or you can teach me a thing or two, or maybe I can help you. So I think that that's really helpful that you brought that up.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Oh, my
Yeah.
pleasure. Um, do you feel like you need to pull back with your business because of your parenting, or like you said, like are you finding it easy to find that flow of balance? And yeah,
Yeah.
the reason why I asked that is because I felt like when I was in that stage with my kids at that age, I
Mm-hmm.
was so fixated on being this dad. And you'll hear me talk about it now. Like I want to be just a good dad. I want to be a good dad. I was so absorbed with that. But
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like at times I had to peel back to be able to do the dad thing well. And then the business struggled. And then I upped the business and I feel like the dad thing struggled, right? Like,
Right.
you know.
Yes. Did that ever kind of find a balance or get a little bit less extreme for you?
Um, Yeah, but it was one of those things where it was always there's that word flow again. It
Yeah.
wasn't like I figured it out and then it stayed figured out.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like you
Okay.
you figure it out and then tomorrow you have to figure it out again.
Okay.
Right.
And did you find that it was very dependent on your children's ages? Like, was it very intense in the beginning and easier kind of when they were 7, 8, 9, and then hard again as teens, or maybe something different?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's time when they were younger, I felt like I wanted to be more involved. I didn't want to be that
Mm-hmm.
dad that just, showed up when she stopped breastfeeding. Like I wanted to be there the whole time sort of thing, right? And but then yeah, once I got into school, it was the same thing again where I wanted to stay connected, whether it's dropping off or picking up or like how do I set my schedule up so that I could be there after school instead of rolling in at 8 o'clock after bath time sort of thing.
Wow.
So yeah, there's always those different points at which I felt like I want to be here and I want to be part of it.
Yeah. And were you a personal trainer at the time?
I was, yeah, yeah,
Nice. So you
yeah.
had some flexibility, like you could be flexible, make your own schedule in a way,
Right.
right? Okay.
Yeah, but as you know from the personal training world, like those prime times for your kids are those prime times for your clients,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like
Right.
nobody wants 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Like your kids don't
No.
want 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and your clients don't want 2 o'clock in the afternoon, right?
What did
Like,
you do?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. And then, yeah, a lot of people want the after work hours, and that's like, I can't leave my partner alone at dinner time. That's like sudden death right there.
right, yeah,
Yeah. The
yep.
witching hour.
Right, exactly. So, and I think that's when I got into, well, I've always been a morning person, but that is when I ended up doing a lot more clients because I figured I can do a
Right.
6, 7, 8 a.m. And even if I miss the
At
school
3
drop
down.
off, I'm there for the
Oh,
pickup, right? It was just that trade off or,
that's cool.
yeah, yeah. But,
So you're so involved. I love that. I hope that Kyle can listen to this after. I think that he'd really enjoy hearing that part from you because
mhm,
um, he can relate. He wants to be there a
yeah,
lot
yeah,
and doesn't just want to be the dad, like you said, who takes the baby after they're done breastfeeding or
yeah,
you know, very present.
Very present. That's it. That's the word, present. Like,
Present.
yeah. And not
And
presents, like not like Disney dad here, like let's just go and play, have fun, but actually present in their world,
present.
right?
Yes, in the diapers, in all the bodily fluids, in it all. Like, yeah, these
Yes.
kids. I talk a lot about diapers and bodily fluids because that's where we're at. Sorry.
That's where you're at. That's okay. Like, yeah, if I had like, people on who have kids, teenager, like my grief, not even, I won't say grief, but I'm a morning person and now my son is working and I have to pick him up from work at 10:30 at night when I would have been in bed at 9:45, right? So,
Yeah.
so at 18, it's not like life gets any easier. It's just a different set of
It's sad.
places that you need to be present.
Places you need to be present. Places you need to flow with
Right.
or flow into, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What's funny, that reminds me of this conversation I had with a guy who was in this nursery. Like both of us at this church I was going to when my kids were like 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Actually, my son was around 4 at the time. So I was in the daycare and once again, being present. So I volunteered in the daycare so I can hang out with my kid during church instead of sitting in
Wow.
service. And there's another guy in there as well, too. And the two of us were talking and we're talking about like stuff we wanted to do at church and things we want to do with our business. And we're having this
Mm-hmm.
conversation and our kids are running around and just checking with us and running out and stuff. And then he said to me, he goes like, that is your mission right now. Your kid, like not about growing your empire. It's about growing that empire, that
Mm-hmm.
kid, because if you do
Mm-hmm.
that right,
Mm-hmm.
then you're impacting the next generation. And it put me back in check because I was, like you said, we're trying to find this flow and trying to do everything right and be all things to all people at their expense. So it's like, well, if I check out of all the stuff I'm trying to do with my business,
Mm-hmm.
even for a few years and get this foundation right, I think the business will be okay. So like it was a good checkpoint, from this stranger in his daycare to tell me like just cool off and just
Yeah.
focus on him and everything should be okay.
And that stuck with you to
Yeah,
this day.
absolutely. Yeah.
Words from a stranger. See, that's so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it came right at the right moment, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And
So, yeah.
no, sorry, go ahead.
Well, just to tie back to your question earlier about, oh my gosh, what were we talking about? We're hitting so
Balance.
many different
I,
places.
I know, right?
Yes, balance and knowing when to peel back, or if I have those feelings of peeling back, um, so that I can focus more on motherhood. Yes, I agree with what you said, that it's every day. There's that question in my head. Do I focus more on my business or do I focus more on the kids?
Mm-hmm.
Am I doing more of this or more of that? Am I doing the right thing? Am I not focusing enough on the kids? Or, you know, I don't know. It's just it is an everyday struggle in a way.
Yeah, right.
And I was very interested to hear about how and if that changed for you as your kids aged. And yeah, I'm happy you asked that question too, because
Yeah.
that's something that's been heavily on my mind. I've had to peel back. So I do have all these like dreams and aspirations about where the business will go and who I want to teach and where I want to teach next. And I'm getting a little more comfortable putting that on hold
Yes.
and just being happy with what I have, which we're really fortunate to have this house and to have this
Yes.
sub room where I can teach from, and just focusing on that and channeling my friend Pilates teacher Lisa Mitchell, and really pouring, what energy I
Your
do
energy
have
into that. Yes.
into the home studio first.
Yeah.
And then from
Absolutely.
there, just maybe build it into a larger studio
Right.
5-10
Maybe.
years down the line or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And the keywords maybe, right? Like who knows like what the next step looks like.
Right.
But it's interesting though, if you look at social media, and this is like my own pet peeve or social commentary on the competition that comes out of social media.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way, you could look at another woman and be like, well, her baby's 5 months old and look at her body, and look at Isla. You can do that with your business as well and say, well, this person has a newborn and a business, and their business is doing this, and mine is like, we can get into this competition thing as well. So we need to block out all of those voices
Mm-hmm.
and really look at like how we want to, use our energy, as you said.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's very common, right? We look at other people, we compare ourselves. I think that can happen in or out of our business. And when we have these little kids or little humans to take care of, even if you have one, you your energy is always taking care of them. You're always wondering if they're comfortable, if they have their needs met,
Mhm.
if you know, their diaper needs changing, if they're fed,
Back to diapers
all
and
the
body
basics.
fluids.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah. Um, and you, so there's that. And then you have to really just draw your energy inward
Mhm.
and create these energetic boundaries
Yes,
so that you can focus on the kid, you can focus on what really matters to you. And
right,
then if you just practice that again is a practice, creating these
right.
energetic boundaries
Hmm.
and drawing inward when you need to, because you really need to conserve your energy. It's like you're running a marathon,
Right.
and burnout happens easily. It can happen
Hmm.
on the spur of a moment without you even noticing. You have to manage your energy and your mood, and that's, for me, that's a struggle.
Yeah.
But I feel a little
It
bit,
sounded good though.
yeah, I'm not, you guys, I'm not perfect at it.
No.
Kyle will tell you.
Do you want to bring
he,
him in? Yeah.
yeah, I'll look very different by like, what, 7 p.m. tonight. I'll be very different
Yes.
right now. Um, but if you could just do that, and then everything else will kind of melt away. You don't need to compare yourself too much to other people.
Mhm.
You just focus in on what those key focus points are for you at
Right.
this time, and that'll change, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, and now to say a little bit more about that, like that, I actually wrote that down as one of the things I wanted to touch on was like drawing energy inward and drawing and making those energy boundaries. Is that the way you said
Mm-hmm.
it?
Yeah, creating energetic boundaries.
Energetic boundaries. Yeah.
Yes, and drawing your energy inward. So I'll give you an example. Um, when working out or exercising with your kids in the room, I know a lot of people, a lot of us are doing that because lots of schools are closed and we're home with our kids a lot more. And so you, you know, first of all, so people ask me, how do you do it? How do you always work out with your kids in the room? The answer is I don't always work out with them in the room.
Mhm.
Sometimes there's just one of them in the room, or just two, or just three, or sometimes I get time to myself, like if they're napping.
Yeah.
That's rare for them all to nap together, very rare. But um, you just make sure that their basic needs are met. So they're fed. It's not during a time where they usually get tired. They're happy. You get like a box of Legos, bring it into the studio or to the room you want to work out in, and have them have their little corner. And then you just, you go to your mat or you go to your piece of equipment and you just sit down and you start moving. And you start, when they notice that you are going into your own thing and their needs are met and they're happy, they can perceive that, oh, mom is doing her own thing, so I can go do my own thing. And
Mhm.
they'll still come up to you and maybe crawl on you here and there, or just check in, because sometimes kids just need to come and, get some little physical touch. They need to
Yes.
touch us. or just see our eyes, you know?
Hmm.
And then you just keep moving and you do the best you can. If they're on your back, you're like, okay, mama needs to keep going. And so it's, you know, it ties back to the, um, they're really intuitive and they're perceptive powers, these kids,
Mm.
right?
Yes, yes.
And when they perceive that we are creating a little bit of boundary around ourselves and just being somewhat gentle about it,
Yes.
then they will let us do these
Right.
things. And sometimes it'll be just be like 5 minutes.
Yes.
And sometimes it'll be half an hour or maybe a full hour. But again, not to get too rigid around it. That's
Right.
been really key for me. And tapping into slowing down and going with the flow and noticing that these kids, they're part of the flow,
Yes.
right?
And the other piece to that, which you didn't mention, which is also to be celebrated, is the modeling,
Oh, yeah.
right? Because now the kids see that and they see that they can't interrupt mommy when she's in her movement practice. They, as they get older, they start to appreciate movement more. They find their own movement, they discover it, and as if you give them enough rein, they could be adventurous and creative with their movement, and it all starts from them seeing mommy move and seeing daddy move.
Right, right.
Right. And that's one of the pieces that I love with my kids, just giving them friend that they all four of them, like my step kids as well, they all love movement. And it's because they see
Wow.
mom and dad moving, right?
Wow.
And like I have pictures of them doing crazy stuff because you just let them move. They get hurt, they get hurt. They fall, they fall. Like it's all part of the movement practice. If you
Yeah,
never get hurt, you never really have explored the boundaries of your own body. So
right.
um,
Did you, so when your kids were younger, did you ever make them exercise with you or show them things to do, or did you just have them watch you?
yes.
Okay.
Like all of the above, right?
All of the
Like
above.
all of the
Yes, let's
above.
go. Come here,
Yes,
kids.
exactly. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I posted this week. Like you're doing push-ups, you want that cookie? Like let's
Oh, I
go.
saw the cute kid. Who was that?
That cute kid was my 14-year-old 10 years ago.
Oh, that, yeah, that video looks so recent. What
Yeah,
a
no, that
cutie.
was 2010. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So he's
Um,
14 years old now.
yep.
And
And
is he your youngest?
he's my youngest. Yeah.
Okay. So
But
sweet.
but yeah, like and it'll be that, or like I bring them to work with me. Like I was working in a gym, and they'd see that this is what daddy does, and let them go on the squash court and just run in circles and bring them home, right? Like they can
Yeah.
just burn off some energy. So they see all these different things. So they see it modeled within our lives, and they see
Right.
how that calms us down or gives us energy, whatever it is. So like that
Right.
modeling piece is so important.
It's so important. And you just you just have to do it.
Mhm.
um, I I don't want to get too off topic because I know we've got a lot of good things going right here, like a lot of fun topics that we've hit on and touched on. But I'll just share this briefly in case anyone can relate who's listening. I did experience perinatal depression and anxiety.
Mhm.
So during pregnancy and then after, and it was mostly after the first two, so the first two kids. And the last thing I wanted to do was move. I
Mm.
did not, like, I think after baby two, I didn't exercise or move my body until 6 months postpartum. And
Wow. Yeah.
I finally made myself book a session with another teacher. And I said, Nadia, you just have to make the time and go and do it. And
Mhm.
that's what I needed. I needed to just go and do it. I needed someone to have their eyes on me. And you know what we worked on? We just did pelvic tilts for like the whole hour.
Yes, it counts.
And yeah, you just have to do, and the smallest movements really help.
Yes.
Even if you're just doing like arm circles,
Hmm.
anything to get your heart rate up,
Yes.
circulation going, it really helps because we can get so locked in our mind that oh, it's not worth it, or I need to
Mm,
tend to the kids first. Their needs
right,
matter. My needs don't matter.
right.
You know, we tell ourselves these
Hmm. These martyr
silly
syndrome
things.
things,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
So small, small and slow. Move small and slow.
Well said.
Yeah.
We're at 55 minutes, and I would love to dive into that topic so much more from the dad
Yeah.
perspective as well, right? Like,
Okay.
because I look at it like, because I hear what you're saying there about just that small movement and just that movement in 6 months and stuff, and like that
Mm-hmm.
dad being present and just trying to save mom from herself at the same time and be connected to the kids, all those different things. Like sometimes the people in our world feel really helpless in that
Mm-hmm.
journey, right? At the same time. So
Yeah.
it's just interesting how it does have to start from within, find the energy to reach out and get help, right? Like what you said, like you just didn't have that own your own accountability to get that movement started. And so
Right.
recruiting someone else to help you is so key. Like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
get
And then you
help.
figure out what works,
Mhm.
what helps you. And if you notice those feelings coming on and again, or you notice the signs of anxiety and depression, you just try to remind yourself, okay, this worked last time. Let me
Yes.
tap into this again. I'm going to find help. I'll go to therapy, or maybe it's medicine, a
Mhm.
certain medicine that works for you, or it's movement, or have, like you said, accountability, having eyes on you really
Yes.
helps.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
We've said so many good things today.
I
Such
know.
good topics. What's the best way for people to get in contact with you? Like you're saying, to be able to connect with you on the parenting,
Yeah.
Pilates, intersection.
Yeah. Best way is either through social media or through email.
Mhm.
Um, do you want me to type in my email? Would that be helpful?
Sure. Yeah, you can
Okay.
do that. And I'll put your handle in the replay.
Oh, great.
And then, yeah, whatever your bio link sends people to, that'll be perfect.
Yes. I'm NBVR Pilates on Instagram or
Soon to be
Facebook.
Nadia's Pilates. No, I'm just kidding.
Nadia Pilates. Oh,
That's,
man. Yeah. Hey, it might change soon.
might
Yeah.
change. You heard it here
Yeah.
first. Or
Yeah.
flow or something
Or
else. Who
flow.
knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
But thank you so
Thank
much for your
you.
time. It's such a great
Yeah.
conversation. You are doing great work, and yeah, looking forward to just chatting with you more.
Hey, likewise. I feel like we could tie up a lot of these loose ends
Y-
sometime soon.
Yes.
Maybe in person if we see each other at a conference, or
Yeah.
maybe again here. But I'm really grateful to you for bringing me on and inviting me onto your platform.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
All right, Martin.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.